and Kennen will be the final pick here for Golden Guardians. That one in the top side. Kennen and Galio wombo combo for initiation, Ezreal, is very scary stuff.
It is terrifying if they can get in on you. Olaf plus Yuumi, also a really strong duo there. To be able to group up. Ezreal is so easy to leave alone. And this can even be a decent lane because you have a fair amount of poke. Lulu is pretty terrifying though. I'm going to be interested to see what sort of runes and masteries they actually do go. I like the barrier on the Kog'Maw and the heal on the Lulu because you've got to be able to keep this Kog'Maw alive through the initial burst. I will say though, it doesn't feel like Wukong fits their composition. That's kind of the odd man out here. It feels like you have Zoe to poke, and you have the Trundle and the Lulu to kind of peel and keep this Kog'Maw safe as you kite back and whatnot. Wukong feels a little bit random in there, but maybe the idea is just you poke them down and then Wukong flies in and softens them up and you kind of chase forward. We'll see if that is able to work because you obviously can use wild growth and everything offensively as well.
Yeah, and if they are trying to go in and dogpile on top of Kog'Maw, then Wukong can be very disruptive in stopping them from being able to work together like that. We've seen Wukong particularly be able to buy a lot of time. If the front line is diving in, if Kennen and Galio want to go in there together, probably with Yuumi attached to one of them trying to dive towards Kog and Zoe and kill them off, Wukong can then 1v2 the remaining players on the side of Golden Guardians, jump in there and try to keep these guys occupied, spinning around, using the clone to buy some time. The champion's very effective at that. So I am curious to see how they're going to use it, particularly with this comp, because I agree, I don't think it fits into generally what you see. When you see Kog'Maw Lulu, you think of a very specific type of composition. Wukong often doesn't fit the bill, but I do want to see what the intended plan here is, because I think he can be a really good disruptor.
He can, and they might be able to make it fit. It's just my kind of concern after having looked at the draft, because it feels like more, you would think, okay, you want more of like a standard front-to-back style team fight, right? Because that's kind of how Zoe generally works. That's how Kog'Maw generally works. Even Trundle works that way. So Wukong's not going to have any dive buddy. He may be able to be disruptive enough on his own, but is in a fairly tough matchup, especially early on against the Kennen. These melee versus range matchups can be difficult. So if you're put behind and you don't synergize well with your comp, could be a potential problem. At the same time, on the other side, there's a tremendous amount of dive, right? You obviously want to be flanking with this Kennen. You want to send in the Olaf with the Yuumi, speeding them up. Galio ults on top, and you're slamming down and hopefully immediately taking out the Kog'Maw and the Zoe. And I think that's going to kind of be the key to victory for that squad.
Can the Blitz find the valuable targets before they're able to use those defensive tools to survive? That's the name of the game here, right? And I particularly want to see how well this Olaf is utilized, because you talked about how we often see the champions band away from the top teams because they respect how much it's able to control the early game and the mid game. And my question is, we've seen Closer in particular be a catalyst for Golden Guardian's success in the past. Can he do it here on this champion and facilitate early Drake control, early river control, invading, setting up opportunities for his lanes to have priority and make moves? I want to see this guy pop off on this pick.
Yep, and we are into game, so we'll find out if he's going to be able to do it. He has been really good at getting leads on a lot of champions, not always the best when he plays those more early game focused champions at closing the game. But I do think the fact that he has Yuumi means that you don't have to close the game as early, right? That's one of the really nice things about this pairing, is that it gives more life to that Olaf pick. You can play it into the late game. You can still have success in the late game because of all the added healing and speed and the root that is actually there from that Yuumi ultimate.
Also, we get the Kog'Maw skin that I wanted. I noticed that as we were looking through our dynamic camera angles loading into the game here. That was the one thing I was looking for.
That's all you were checking for?
Else. Yeah. That's like everybody else walking out. I was like, okay, I don't really care if they're doing line of scrimmage or if we're going to have a full 5-man on 5-man team fight here at level 1. I just want to see if we have the Lizard Wizard, and we do. So he's back into the game. Lethal tempo on him this time around. It is your typical marksman-style Kog'Maw as opposed to that AP mid-style that we saw in the previous game. Heal on him, exhaust on the Lulu, particularly concerned about making sure they shut down some of the damage potential of either the Olaf or the Kennen when they go in and try to initiate onto him. You can see heal, exhaust both onto huhi's Yuumi as well. Sometimes we see Yuumi's take Ignite if they want to be a little bit more aggressive, but not this time around. Teleports on 3 out of 4 of the solo laners here this time around. Fenix is opting for the cleanse over the teleport here on his Zoe, and there is a Summoner's Spellbook there on both Kennen and Galio. Both solo laners of Golden Guardians will have the opportunity to switch those spells around, and we'll see how creative they can get with those this game.
It is interesting to note that there's no relic shields taken down in the bottom lane. You know, that is by far the most common option these days. People often find it too hard to consistently keep that Spell Thieves on cooldown, and if you're not always getting that poke out, you just get much better gold generation. You know, from having that relic shield, it's pretty much guaranteed. You're always going to have the ability to proc it. So this is a little bit of a trade-off. You know, you get the extra mana regen, which is really nice, because Yuumi and Lulu can both be very mana hungry, but we'll have to track how late they actually do complete that support item, because it really can delay the completion of that Sightstone, and being able to have those wards can mean a lot.
Checking in on where the junglers started here real quick, it looks like both junglers are working towards the bottom side of the map here. Dardoch going from his red buff straight into the bottom half of the map, making sure that he secures that top side valuable camp before leaving that area in case Closer wanted to do some kind of jungle invade early on. But now Dardoch will head towards that top side river. He's in really good shape. Trundle can clear through these camps in a super healthy state, and Olaf likes to get low HP just to make sure he's speeding up the clear. Let's see if Dardoch can make a gank happen here onto Damonte. Fenix could seek out that Sleepy Trouble bubble. Nice use of the pillar. Damonte flashing out to keep himself safe.
That was perfectly timed there by Dardoch, waiting for that charge back from the Galio. He always swoops back before he actually punches forward, so you can actually end up getting further away from your destination if you're immediately interrupted on that pullback. So nicely timed pillar does force out the flash, and that's going to be pretty good from them. This clear from Closer was actually so fast, though. He did full clear and scuttle by about 3:30. So, you know, 7 camps essentially done already at this point in the game, if you're counting that scuttle, and he's going to be back for an early base. He grabs up that chilling smite, so that allows you to have much more of an effect in these early games. You do have the opportunity to then try to chase people down if they're out of position. It makes your ganks so much more effective.
Right. He went for a better early path, more efficient, more potentially risky because he got so low HP to speed up that clear pattern. And the cost was his opponent was able to get the flash out of his mid laner there in Damonte. So can Dignitas make use of that here over the course of the next 3.5 minutes or so and come back for a return gank onto Damonte to really make use of blowing that summoner spell? Or will Closer's nice farm pattern pay off and allow him to hit that level 6 fast enough to really force the issue here in a couple of minutes? We will find out. It is a gold lead here early on for the Golden Guardians just based on farm alone, but when you have a Kennen lane, when you have an Ezreal, I would expect your team to be able to farm up very effectively in the laning phase. Fenix gets a little bit of damage down onto Damonte there, not a whole ton. It's not like he's really worried. Fenix is completely out of mana, and Damonte can just clear the rest of the wave away as Johnsun and aphromoo are getting pretty familiar with the scenery underneath this tier 1 turret, but they're fine to farm up. Lulu is not the early game menace. They are all about that scaling.
You are scaling always when you're playing this style of bot lane. So as long as they're farming out, as long as they're not getting bullied too hard or losing the turret, you can be pretty happy about your situation. And the other thing is, while it's very limited windows of power, you still have to respect the damage that can come out from Lulu. You know, if you shift forward haphazardly or something like that, it's so easy to proc the lethal tempo with your E. You just goop them up, and then you with your W active and the lethal tempo proc, you get sped up by the Lulu. Your attack speed is pretty ridiculous, and the damage output can be very high. So there can be these moments of a lot of power, like even that trade rate there. It's just few and far between because the cooldown's quite long in the early game, and you're very reliant on it.
Dignitas continuing to just play this game however they want. While Golden Guardians did go for the early first Drake, it was not contested and an easy pickup there for them. Mountain Drake under their belt. Infernal Drake will be spawning next. It means we get either Cloud or Ocean Soul this game. We know how valuable Ocean Soul is to literally everyone, but Cloud Soul is the one that people usually look at as the most situational, right? Some champions get a lot of use out of it. Other champions are like, what the hell is this even for? When I look at an Olaf and a Kennen, I see a couple of champions that can get a lot of use out of a Cloud Soul.
They really can, dude. That is honestly terrifying when you think about those style of champions with it. I would also say Wukong, incredible with it. And as funny as this may sound, it's actually really good for Kog'Maw because you get not only the flat 10% move speed, but your ultimate almost becomes a defensive at that point. You pop your ultimate and you get this massive boost of move speed. You have the 10% flat, then you get the 30 or so that you do from actually proccing the ultimate, and all of a sudden, Olaf and Kennen, these champions that are trying to close on you, have to walk through your goop, which is you being slowed down, and you have an enormous burst of speed to either chase down or kite back.
Nice damage there coming out from Fenix. I thought for sure the minion was going to step up and block that one in time, but the AoE of the Paddle Star just barely big enough to make sure that it hit the champion instead. Closer invading for the second red buff of Dardoch. Hauntzer coming to collapse, and they force the flash away from the Dignitas jungler. However, because of the fact that Fenix is heading over, that's the only victory Golden Guardians are going to find here, and Closer has to leave or risk the 3-man punish.
Intelligent flash by Dardoch. You can't really mess around with that level 6 Olaf, because if you get too low, he can even just flash follow over that wall and finish you off. But good collapse does mean he is protected somewhat, and despite the fact that Olaf is going to have a much faster clear, yes, Closer did take the dragon, but Dardoch has stayed relevant. He forced the flash mid lane. He's keeping up in farm pretty well. Can be, I think, fairly happy about how the early game has gone, given the lanes. You have Olaf and a Trundle. You're expecting to be behind there. You're expecting the Kennen to be ahead in the top lane. And you're expecting your bot lane to be behind as well. So Dignitas has some losing lanes, but they're within striking distance.
Blue buff also handed off there to Fenix to make sure he's able to keep the spam going there in mid lane. It's always a good feeling as a mid laner when you feel like you've ran completely out of mana. Otherwise, you would have to go back, but the blue buff saves the day and makes it so you don't have to give up that lane control here just yet. Johnsun and aphromoo looking for maybe a chance to make something happen with Dardoch down here in the bottom lane. FBI knows better than to step up when they're not aware of where the Trundle could be. You can see some question mark pings coming out there from the side of Golden Guardians in that bottom side river saying, hey, we think Dardoch could be around. Don't risk it for a little bit of turret damage.
It's a good job just kind of being aware of their surroundings and knowing their limits in that situation. It's always tempting to try to push in and try to harass and try to deny some of the farm there, but they had a good reset timing anyway, so it's not like they're losing a lot from backing off. They go back, they have tier, they already got a call in an early base, so it has the pieces of that Muramana and is going to be pretty happy about the situation they're sitting in, but Afro and Johnsun, because they were covered on that push from Dardoch, they're going to be able to reset the wave, and with this early cut list that Johnsun has, you can start to really start shrugging off a lot of the poke that is going to come out from FBI and huhi, and this lane can start going more in their favor.
Rift Herald now being taken by Closer. Shouldn't be any interference from this one. There's no blast cone available for the Dignitas jungle, so I don't think Dardoch will have any real chance to get in there, considering there's no flash either. Even if he went in there and then tried to get out, he wouldn't be able to, so it's not really worth the risk. Now, where does Closer want to use the Herald? We will have to find out. Remember, you got 4 minutes to use it, and considering he picked it up at 9.5, that means that plates will be standing all the way through that duration. So any use of it to get plates at all is going to be good money here for the Golden Guardians, as Fenix can't quite find the distance there on the Paddle Star. Damonte doing a good job buffering the Justice Punch to get maximum possible distance away from Fenix and make him actually lose out on the trade a little bit by taking a turret shot for no reason.
Even with that, it looked like it was a pixel or two out of range. That was so close to actually connecting there. And nice little ultimate from FBI, just trying to poke them down. But as I said, now that Johnsun has some of this lifesteal built up, as long as he's not getting hit by every bit of poke, he's going to be pretty comfortable sitting in this situation. And aphromoo becomes more of the target. It kind of switches from the Kog'Maw, who you want to keep down early, to this Lulu, who doesn't have that sustain, being the one that you're really looking to punish.
Closer investing in clearing some vision away from the mid lane and also summoning up the Rift Herald, recognizing that Fenix is gone. This is not a maximum efficiency Rift Herald where you try to drop it with either 2 or 3 plates remaining and just get the most value possible. Instead, this is a get money onto my mid laner quickly, make sure that we get that immediate payoff and see if we can translate that into more later on. Golden Guardians also picking up their second Drake of the game. Ocean Soul yet again. Lo-fi hip-hop rift to study and gank lanes to. Super relaxing, very zen, all the best types of things to keep you level-headed playing through this game. I love this rift. I get Magical Kog'Maw on my favorite rift. This is a good game. This is a great way to end Week 6, Isaac.
It's honestly the perfect Kog'Maw rift as well, right? Because really all you want to do is chill and farm. You're not trying to do anything until maybe like 30 minutes later. So it's not chill and study. It's just chill and CS, man. You're just hanging out, you're enjoying the brushes, enjoying all the flowers everywhere. getting all the cannon minions. Life is good for the Kog'Maw.
More brushes to juke into and all those other champions try to run you down and kill you all the time. It's good times here for the little Kog'Maw. But things continue to build there in terms of neutral objectives for the Golden Guardians. They have had complete control over those so far. I said back in Champ Select that that's what I wanted to see out of this Olaf. I wanted to see Closer control the neutral game, make sure he was really taking advantage of how strong Olaf is in these 1v1s. And so far, he's 2 for 2 on Drakes. He got that first Herald as well that gave Damonte some extra gold. He's doing what I want to see him do.
He really is, and I'm becoming more and more concerned just about how the top lane is actually going for Dignitas. You know, I called it out in draft. I didn't really think that the Wukong kind of fit their comp. He is falling very far behind. You know, this is like a 40 CS lead. He hasn't actually been ganked. I mean, I guess that Olaf was up there a little bit, so there's maybe some modicum of pressure, but it's not as though he's actually been attacked whatsoever by the jungler. And you're falling really, really far behind. I don't think that it's going to be very easy for this Wukong, who's being held down, to find a lot of success. He may prove me wrong, but I definitely have a lot of concerns about how the game is going here for Viper on Wukong.
Yep, has the Mercury Treads, has just a Sheen, so not exactly a massive threat to a back line if he's able to engage there, particularly an Ezreal that can have a Yuumi attached to keep him healthy and allow him to kite away from that Wukong. Huhi on the Yuumi when we're looking at his inventory right now. Doesn't really have a lot that he's working with. A couple of Fairy Charms, a Potion. Now upgrading that into the Chalice to make sure the mana regeneration is there. And regeneration will be the name of the game because for those of you who missed the memo, Yuumi does have a significant nerf on the mana cost of her healing now. It costs 15% of her maximum mana. So there's no way that you can just build a ton of mana items and essentially alleviate the cost of that. You are going to feel that threat over the course of a team fight if it goes on for too long, and Huhi will have to pick and choose where and when he wants to use those heals. As Dignitas are invading, but they just get down some vision. They won't be aware that Closer is farming up the Krugs, and no fights to be seen just yet. 13.5 minutes into the game, still no kills.
Got a banger stat here for you, Flowers. So that
what do we got, my friend?
Latest First Blood this split was 13-18. So you guessed it, buddy.
Oh,
we're in for
man.
a treat.
This is indeed a record breaker, a barn burner, a lesson learner, whatever you want to call it. We are truly entering new territory here today. Viper gets ignited, but he's not in any danger of being killed off just yet either. Okay. All right, Ezreal, we're going to play the guessing game.
Well, okay.
Take a guess. What minute will the first death be in?
It's going to be at the next dragon fight, so I'm guessing 16.
Okay.
Between 16 and 17.
Okay. So somewhere when the clock says 16-something is going to be the first death of the game. All right.
Yep.
All right. Let's see if the Literal World Champion's prediction capabilities are on point, or if these players will manage to bamboozle him out of that, as Damonte ends up losing a chunk of his HP there to the Proto Belt active that Fenix had picked up off the ground. You know, sometimes I get confused when I look at Zoe. I'm like, oh, Proto Belt, that's an interesting tech choice. We don't normally see Zoe's take. Oh, wait, never mind, it's Zoe. And then you just understand that it was not actually that ever, and she just picked it up off the ground. This, however, I don't even remember. How long ago did Zoe release, Isaac? Like,
oh, God.
A year, 2 years?
Time, I'm always so bad with these. I'm like, it was 2 weeks ago, and they're like, that was 7 years ago.
Yeah. Also, especially during quarantine, I feel like, you know, last week was 5 years ago, so I can't really tell anything. But however long ago Zoe came out.
3 decades have passed in 2020.
Yeah, I'm still not used to watching Zoe pick up random crap off the ground and just throw it all over the place.
At least you can't get teleported anymore. That was the worst.
Yes, that was the worst thing ever. Being able to pick up teleport and go, well, I win lane. Like, see, that's where we needed pros being able to use emotes in game, is when they could be Zoe, pick up teleport off the ground and go, well, I won lane, sorry. Like, that would have been the ultimate time for the thumbs up. That's when I really wanted to see that. We missed out on prime BM time.
True. All right, so here. You know, I was talking about the choice of the Spell Thieves versus the Relic Shield early on. Aphro still doesn't have his actually converted over. The average conversion time throughout the LCS this split is 10:23. So that just gives you an example of how much slower this can be. You know, you can say that, oh, maybe you should have done a better job of it or whatever, but it's really hard to actually consistently proc it without taking too much damage. And we may not even get a fight. It looks like Dignitas isn't even moving, so they're just going to give up the third. So I was wrong, I think, on the 16-minute first blood. I was expecting that they wouldn't be willing to put themselves at soul point. Yes, you have good scaling, I guess it's a hard call to make, you know, but if they're just saying, all right, Wukong needs at least Triforce before we can fight, you know, Kog'Maw needs at least 2 items before we can fight, we don't have a chance, then okay. If you don't have a chance, you don't have a chance, right? And you have to give that up. But then I start to really question what your draft is actually doing here, where, you know, you're sitting back in this spot where you've lost a turret, you're down 3,500 gold, and you're at soul point before contesting anything. Like, yes, you might be able to theoretically stop every dragon for the rest of the game and then win, but it's not as though Golden Guardians just have a trash comp later on. Like, you know, Olaf Yuumi has relevance into the late game, and I do think that Kog'Maw is going to be fairly susceptible to the dives until you get to like way into the luxury items, right? Where you have multiple defensive items and stuff where you can't just get one shot.
Look at that oof of a gold graph there on the left side of the screen. Fenix just barely moving past closer, and if not for that, it would have been all Golden Guardians players there at the very top before you got into any of the Dignitas players. When Golden Guardians jungler is more wealthy than Dignitas's AD carry, there's a little bit of a problem here moving forward. Now, as you've said, you know, if Kog'Maw gets 6 items, doesn't really matter anyway. He pukes all over the entire team. He just kills everybody at once. It's not that big of a deal. But we're a long way away from that point of the game. We are only just now about at 18 minutes, and Golden Guardians is looking real good.
You know, my biggest concern is actually like that they're probably not even going to have Rage Blade by the time they have to fight for Soul, right? And I would get it more if it's like, okay, you know, you're going to be on this really, really powerful point, because when you have Blade of the Rune King and Rage Blade, you actually don't need 6 items on Kog'Maw. Like, that alone is going to give you enough damage as long as you don't instantly die to just blast through a single target, right? And then when you hit 3 items with Hurricane and stuff, that can be, you know, even more potential damage. But they're so far away from that. Aphro just now actually got the transform on his Spell Thieves. So, you know, right around 18 minutes when the average time, you know, is 10. They're not contesting anything anyway, so I guess the vision didn't really matter. But I do think that like, I wasn't flaming. I'm actually
look. I know it wasn't supposed to be flame,
but it kind of is. Yeah.
It kind of comes across as flame when it's like, well, at least if there's going to be a game where you don't have wards in time, it should be the game where you don't need them anyway because you're not
the team
playing.
didn't buy items, but they're not doing anything anyway. So really,
it's not like you need them. I mean, when you're just farming minions.
His Ezreal's 0-16, but even if he was 6 items, he hasn't hit a skill shot, so who can know? But
right, exactly. When you're shooting minions, Mystic Shot's a Mystic Shot.
But either way, I think that the thing is, you're missing out on a lot of gold generation, right? Because it's the same amount of gold generation to actually, you know, gold earned to complete your Spell Thieves as it is for Relic Shield. And when the average is around 10-ish minutes, that means that gold is very delayed, right? You know, you're getting to that 1,000 gold mark where it turns off so much later into the game. So, you know, the support's going to be more poor. Kog'Maw is far off being relevant. Triforce is just now finished, and it is very late because Viper is not in a fun lane. So they've kind of just bet their whole game on being able to win every team fight from now until infinity. And I'm not sure that they can really guarantee that.
Yeah. Also, when you look at Kennen, double Spell Pen, Proto Belt, and he should be in a spot to, even if he doesn't have the fully completed Zhonya's Hourglass, I would expect him to be able to just get the one-and-done stopwatch for the fight at the Drake. And so then you're Kennen. You're living the dream, man. You're able to go in, you have full initiation power, and you have a stopwatch to keep yourself alive after you go. That's ideal.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, really, like, can Dig even try to fight this? I mean, Dardoch's inventory, he doesn't have a second item fully completed after the Cinder Hulk, so the Trundle's not particularly strong right now either. Fenix still working towards getting that second full item done after the Luden's Echo. Why, when you look at Damonte, remember the other big thing about building Proto Belt? It's cheap compared to other big mage items, right? It only costs 2,500, 2,600 gold. So you can get that and a second item done much more quickly. Proto Belt plus Zhonya's Hourglass completed for Damonte there on the Galio. The Drake spawning in 30 seconds. It's Dignitas with control over the bottom river, but can they make it happen?
Yeah, I mean, Aphro doesn't even have his first item completed. You know, the Zeke's isn't done on Dardoch. You're going all in on the Kog'Maw, but you don't have the pieces set up. Rageblade isn't done. You know, they have to, though. They have no choice anymore, because if you give up Soul at this point in the game, it's probably just over. But I think any reasonable fight from Golden Guardians, as long as Hauntzer actually can swap over to Flash here with his Spellbook, it's like, Olaf, Galio, and Kennen all flashed on top of the Kog'Maw with Yuumi attached to one of them. I just don't see how Kog'Maw ever lives, but we'll see.
Oh, here goes Damonte already into the fight. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to see some kills. It's Closer on the board first and foremost. A double kill over to the Olaf as Viper tries to spin to win in the middle of the fight, but the blender will not be successful. Golden Guardians pick up 3 plus an Ocean Soul. Where is the hope for Dignitas when the first fight of the game comes 22 minutes in and it goes like that?
I'm going to be honest, this game was absolutely terrible from Dignitas. This is like a horrible, horrible game. You didn't do anything the whole game, and that is what you're betting your game on? There was just like almost no way in which they could even win that fight, and if you're checkmated this hard, it's like, yes, it was a great flank. Yes, Damonte got that. But Hauntzer wasn't even there, and you already lost the fight. It's not as though it was close. Hauntzer didn't even have to ult or do anything. He wasn't even a part of it. Like, it's disappointing to see a team, concede so much. I don't think the Wukong fit. You automatically lose multiple lanes here in this draft. You have no pressure as a result as your jungler. Your options are so limited, and it just feels like they absolutely checkmated themselves with their own draft.
So, all right, this will probably be the last time at the game I'm even able to pose this kind of a question. What's the play for Dignitas?
I mean, the play is wait and pray. Like, the play is actually just, okay, we're scaling, right? Like, buy every support item in the game, get Night Vow and Zeke's on Trundle, get, Redemption and Ardent Sensor and like every single thing on your Lulu. Hope that Johnsun can get really, deep into his item build, and that the game isn't over by then. And if you can get to that point where Kog'Maw is just insta-killing, the Olaf and whatnot, then maybe there's some hope. But I think that when you're this behind, you have to get past just the damage items now, and you have to get to all the luxury items for Johnsun to even have a chance of surviving.
Okay, let's see what you can do, little lizard wizard. You know that I think that skin's cute as hell, but I don't think that's enough to come back in a game like this. 7,000 gold down, Ocean Soul in the possession of their opponents. FBI got hit by some Zoe damage, but it was immediately healed up by the Yuumi. As soon as his health bar took a hit, it went right back up. Hauntzer's pressuring the top lane tier 2. He's 70 CS ahead of his counterpart in Viper on this Wukong.
Yep. I mean, and they have Ocean Soul, so it's like you can just stand in their jungle forever. You're never going to run out of mana. The mana limitations on Yuumi are irrelevant. They're irrelevant on everyone. And you can start Baron up 1,000 times if you want, because you just heal off of Baron, because you're proccing the Ocean Soul. So Dignitas is now going to be forced to face check over and over and over and over and over. And, Golden Guardians has the ability to just finish this or to hard commit and force them to actually come over and fight. I don't think Dignitas really feels comfortable at all to even make a move over to try to fight, so they're just ceding the Baron as well. They know they can't fight it, but it's like, at what point is this game supposed to turn around then? Are you now praying as Dignitas that you last 20 more minutes? Is it 25 more minutes? You're down almost 10,000 gold, and you're hoping that somehow the game is going to go twice as long, or maybe even longer, before you're relevant.
I feel like they're already, Dignitas is completely irrelevant at this state of the game. They've not taken a stand for anything. They contested one neutral objective throughout the entirety of the whole game. They have one turret that they just managed to pick up there down in the bottom lane thanks to Viper. It just seems like they showed up and didn't play.
Yeah,
I'm really concerned as to what the plan was here.
I just really hate the draft so much. It's so bad. Like, I think that it's one of those situations where, I pointed out the Wukong in draft. I pointed out the Wukong when he was down in 40 DPS. What has the Wukong done for you at any point of this game, right? And that's not even attacking Viper. That's just attacking the pick here. I think you can't just seed all your lanes, right? Like, you can't go Lulu Kog and then also like counter, have like a counter pick for yourself on the top lane. You have to be willing to flex things around and give Viper a better setup or protect him better. Because if you're just auto losing both top and bot, and the other team has Olaf, well, now your Trundle can't do anything either. So now you've given up, three areas of the map essentially entirely. And Zoe into Galio is like at best, kind of even-ish. And there's the ability for Damonte to make more plays around the map. So it just feels like Dignitas didn't really leave themselves any options at all. And as a result, like, this is the game we get.
Okay. Another question for you then. Let's play another guessing game.
Okay.
Will Dignitas fight at all before the fight that ends the game.
So
another way to put it is
probably not. Actually, probably not. No, that's my guess.
Yeah, the next Dignitas death timer that happens, will the Nexus blow up before that person comes back?
Oh, I mean, maybe not, because maybe someone dies like on these inhibs. But I think that if you're willing to give up Baron and everything, you have totally committed to like, okay, God, just pray that we can farm it out, pray that we can somehow last really long time. So I think as a result, you're going to be willing to give up anything that isn't completely lethal damage in the game, which generally means they're probably going to have to fight whenever they're losing like their third inhib or their Nexus turrets or something, and I just can't see them being in a position to win that fight.
Johnsun lost half his HP to True Shot Barrage. Mystic Shots following it up, nearly take him down. He has the Rage Blade now, but it's too little, way too late. Golden Guardians have already taken the first inhibitor. They are on to the second. Kiana Giggle emote, same, bro. As Dignitas tries to get themselves away, Golden Guardians continue the push. Dignitas has no avenue to fight this whatsoever. They are down 10,500 gold. Nexus turret number 1 under fire.
Last stand.
They've got 2 of those cannon minions already shooting at him. Damonte has the BM ready to go. Johnsun gets a little bit of damage there onto closer, but remember, the Ocean Soul will help keep these guys topped off in terms of their HP. Phoenix tries to find a paddle star to follow up that trouble bubble there, but he will not be able to hit the mark. Wukong's coming around from behind. Viper wants the flank. This could be their only chance. Phoenix jumps over the wall for a little bit of damage. Viper continuing to try to run away. Galio goes for the taunt, but Damonte's CC will not find its marker here just yet. Viper now locked down, now forced out of the fight. The wild growth to keep him alive as Hauntzer goes in, and Viper is dead. aphromoo tries to keep himself as far away from these Golden Guardians players as humanly possible. TP coming in onto the minion here to get everybody from Golden Guardians right back into the enemy base. One Nexus turret between them and their final objective here as Johnsun tries to hold the line, spitting out some of those auto attacks. The attack speed is impressive, finding some damage there onto Hauntzer, but not enough to really put him under any real threat. FBI again going to be healed back up to full thanks to the Yuumi of Huhi. Dardoch tries to get himself away. Damonte once again going to be looking for the taunt. It's over. That's all she wrote. 4-0 final.